Hey guys, thanks for visiting my channel today. I'm going to keep this video brief, but today I just wanted to talk about propaganda in general, and then also the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays. This is in my very most essential books that I'd want people to check out in terms of nonfiction books. Like in my top 5 nonfiction books I'd try to get people to read, this would be one of them. And I do make this content for people because I know that like I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to post-secondary education anymore because it's so corrupted, and that's a shame, you know. And so there's stuff I want to just general information I think that people aren't really taught in high school and stuff that they should know. And one thing that I have when I was doing my English degree, we studied like mass comm and this kind of stuff, how PR firms work. But then I went to journalism school, or I did a post-grad program in journalism, and then after that I ran a media company for a while that got quite controversial and got embroiled in some controversies that got international attention and stuff. And I didn't have a lot of financial success with that company, but I learned a lot about running a small company and journalism, and a little bit of commentary of my own is I stopped wanting to be a journalist in a commercial sense, because I don't know how to make a model work, because then it's all sensationalism and it's all like clickbait, and it sort of has to be in order for these companies to make money. And I want to make these videos to foster like a dialectic conversation. I'm not a rhetorician. I don't want to just be blasting people with simplified messages and Twitter slogans and hard to dumb down opinions on things. And anyway, what I learned, from like 2020 to 2022 in that period was the average person just doesn't understand how artificial like North American society is in terms of like the media and politics, news, everything, and they don't understand like the degree to which we're all programmed and immersed in propaganda. And that this is a short book, like it's an easy read. That's why I want people to read it, get an understanding this, because he wrote this I think around in the 1930s. He died in 95. He was born in 1891. 1928 he wrote it. So a lot of people hate him because he was cocky, and but there's some key takeaways I want people to understand. If you're a good propagandist, you're not selling a product. Like, he was hired to sell bacon, for example, for a baking company. So he didn't go out and make advertisements to try to convince people they should buy bacon. He marketed a lifestyle, the whole idea of a hearty breakfast being important. The whole notion, by the way, like I was raised with a lot of ideas that were just enforced culturally that are completely arbitrary. And what's annoying about it or frustrating is that understanding that these are capitalists in boardrooms sitting around like creating this stuff to make money off us, and they package it and give it to us, and we think it's like our culture, and it's just like having these huge breakfasts. Now, I fast in the first half of the day. I don't even have a meal until like the afternoon, but growing up, like, it was wisdom, like the most important meal of the day is breakfast, which is nonsense. It can be traced back to Edward Bernays. And another thing that I want to communicate to people is I have always had this idea in my mind that being like the word propaganda, it has a negative connotation to it. Like if somebody called me a propagandist, that would be like a pejorative label. I used to say, well, that's just like a garbage propaganda. But now I realize, to be clear, propaganda is like a tool. It's like a gun. Propaganda is not inherently good or bad. In fact, it's pragmatically necessary. It's like saying, like, if we're going to have a war with somebody, we better have guns because they have guns. So propaganda just means to propagate an opinion, and whoever has a bigger soapbox, whoever has more media and a louder way to propagate some kind of knowledge or information, whether it's correct and true or not, has more power. So it's libertarians for also, like, a lot of my stuff kind of like pertains to them. They overestimate how rational people are, and they don't realize that if you're dealing with large, like a community like Canada's not even a large country, but let's say it's a nation with 35 million people, right? You do need I'm not in favor of defunding the CBC, for example, even though I think it's complete garbage and corrupt. I think it needs to be completely rehauled and restaffed and put back on track, because there is an actual need for like a national unified broadcaster with some information, just to just organized, efficiently, pragmatically get this information to people. Otherwise, I also think we need a two-tiered system. I think we need like the CBC to exist. I don't mind paying some taxes for it if it was running properly and wasn't like corrupted, and also like an ecosystem of smaller content creators that people should be willing to pay a few bucks a month to support, just to create an ecosystem around that for balance. But It's just my own opinion. Anyway, so I want people to read this book and to understand that propaganda in and of itself isn't immoral or bad, and that efficient culture wars and propaganda wars and information wars rely on having good propaganda. You could study World War I, for example, and World War II, and talk about, well, let's keep World War I and speculate all day long and argue about different reasons why one side won or lost. But one key factor in that conflict that was a determining thing was which side had better and more effective propaganda. And the Allies and the British were much better at it than the Germans in World War I, and it was a major deciding factor in why the Allies won the First World War. So my point is that a lot of people tend to they don't understand the need for a group, if it has a cause and a message, to need effective propaganda, and to not underestimate how damaging bad optics can be in a culture war. So this video, I'm going to keep it a little shorter than a typical video, but because it's just one book recommendation today. But people don't understand how much propaganda we're all immersed in. They got to learn to recognize it, learn what it is. And this book by Edward Bernays is like the manual. It's a seminal text, and he just describes, because he describes what he did in real life. He's talking about like the campaigns that he ran, and whether it's for diamond companies or like I said, for baking companies or whatever, and how he effectively manipulates public opinion to get what he wants, and in this case, he makes really interesting points. So he says an open society, a democracy like we have, needs public, like a committee for public, like a propaganda wing of the government, basically. It's challenging sometimes. It was for me when I first encountered it, but it was interesting to think about, especially as someone who tried to have a media company, or who ran a media company for a few years. So, in conclusion, get this book either physically or digitally and read the damn thing, okay? Propaganda by Edward Bernays. Have that perspective on things up in your brain. It will help you out a lot. So thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.